NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte said he is confident that with sustained pressure they can get Russian President Vladimir Putin to the negotiating table and agree to a ceasefire. According to Associated Press, Rutte told reporters outside the White House his meeting with Trump had been tremendously good, with a focus on how to put an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. Including what we can do to make sure that Putin accepts the president's view that the two parties should stop where they are, said Rutte. I totally support him and we will see how we can do that, he added. Trump's administration announced new sanctions against Russia's oil industry aimed at moving Putin to the negotiating table. Putin continues to frustrate the U.S. administration's efforts to bring an end to Moscow's brutal war in Ukraine. The sanctions unveiled Wednesday against oil giants Rosneft and Lukoil followed months of calls from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenski as well as bipartisan pressure on Trump to hit Russia with harder sanctions on its oil industry, the economic engine that allows Russia to continue to execute the grinding invasion of Ukraine even as Moscow finds itself internationally isolated. Trump said he hopes the new sanctions will help make Putin reasonable and negotiate an end to the war. The U.S. administration announced the sanctions as NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte was in Washington for talks with Trump. The military alliance has been coordinating deliveries of weapons to Ukraine, many of them purchased from the United States by Canada and European countries.
We have a plane to catch, so I cannot be too long, and you've already... I had a tremendously good meeting with President Trump. I mean, the leadership he is providing when it comes to NATO, the summit in The Hague, the 5%, the fact that since Eisenhower we never were able to equalize spending between what the Europeans and the Canadians are spending, what the US is spending, that at that summit we agreed on this famous 5%, including 3.5% on core defense spending, is now equalizing what the Canadians and the Europeans are paying into NATO and the collective NATO effort to what the US is doing. So that was a big foreign policy success of President Trump. Europe is stepping up also in other domains, including when it comes to buying weapons from the US to be delivered into Ukraine, very important for the war effort. And today we particularly focus on how can we end the war? What can I do, what can NATO do to support President Trump's vision of ending this war, ending the killing in Ukraine, including what we can do to make sure that Putin accepts the president's view that the two parties should stop where they are, as he said on Friday and on Sunday. I totally support him, and we will see how we can do that. What NATO is doing is trying collectively to sustain Ukraine in this fight. But of course we all want this fighting to end. So his position here, and I completely support this, is, as he said, stop where you are. So as both to the Ukrainians as well to the Russians. Yes, when you look at the Russian side, they started this war. It clearly is not moving in the right direction. And when you look at this year, let's say the territory they gained in Ukraine is extremely limited. And as I said, against enormous amount of people dying and getting seriously wounded. The Russian economy is in a difficult situation. We know we have these long lines into gasoline stations all over Russia at the moment. We know that the French president and others in Europe stepped up when it comes to the shadow fleet. And of course we have seen the pressure by the American president on some European countries to stop buying oil. So all of this is having an impact. So I'm absolutely convinced that with sustained pressure, we will be able to get Putin to the table to agree with a ceasefire and then other talks coming after that. And you have seen it in the last couple of weeks. Alaska happened when the American president decided to do secondary sanctions on India buying Russian oil. We have seen last week the call taking place when the president said, I'm contemplating sending Tomahawks into Ukraine for Ukraine to be used. So this is clear evidence that we can change Putin's calculus. Yes. Now with Spain I had many talks with the president of the government, Prime Minister Sanchez. We know each other very well. Spain has committed to deliver the capability targets. They are saying we can do it on a percentage lower than 3.5. I said you cannot, and we will pretty soon find out who is right.
Has the White House...
Thank you, bye-bye.
Well, thanks everybody for coming here. I especially want to thank the Secretary-General and the Ambassador for being here. We've been given an update on a number of things, including what I think are very promising developments in our cooperation among the NATO members for resupplying not only Ukraine, but modernizing the whole of NATO.
I reported to them that we're very excited that in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee this morning we passed out the first 3 bills that address Russia's unprovoked war in Ukraine today. One would declare Russia a state sponsor of terrorism because of their kidnapping of Ukrainian children, and the second would allow us to move forward using the repossessed assets from Russia to support Ukraine in this war, and the third would be to take an effort at China to stop the war effort, their support for the war effort from China. All of those bills passed unanimously out of committee, have strong bipartisan support, and we look forward to getting them to the floor soon.
I will see the President later today. We will discuss further how we from NATO can be helpful in delivering his vision of getting a full-scale peace in Ukraine, which of course we all pray for after his enormous success in Gaza. So again, thank you so much for hosting us, Senators, and thank you for your leadership.
We have time for a couple of questions.
Secretary-General, Sky News, can we just ask, is your visit here at this moment not an indication that President Trump's meeting with President Zelensky on Friday was a total disaster?
No, not at all, because this was already planned before. I was texting with the President after an enormous success in Gaza, and we said, hey, let's have a meeting in Washington to discuss how we now can deliver his vision on peace in Ukraine. And when it comes to the meeting last week, Friday, you have also heard President Zelensky. I think that was a good meeting, it was a successful meeting, it's exactly what we need. It's the American President who broke the deadlock with Putin in February, took that leadership role, which only he can, and he is delivering, and I'm really commending him for that. So that was a good meeting, and we will build on that.
Secretary, the first, to that end, do you believe another meeting between President Trump and Vladimir Putin would be productive? And second, do you think a ceasefire is necessary before real negotiations can start?
Well, let's start with the second question. The President himself was very clear this weekend. Stop where you are, which sounds simple, but of course is also exactly right. So I was I totally agree with him. Stop where you are. That's the main message. And again, we will dialogue this afternoon further, and I'm there to help him to deliver whatever NATO can do, me personally, the ambassador, all of us can do to help him to deliver on that vision. And clearly going forward, I cannot now predict exactly what type of meetings, in what type of setting will happen. But it will mean a lot of discussions with all the leaders involved, including the presidents of Russia and Ukraine, no doubt.
Should that happen together?
We should be very clear with the Secretary-General. We're having discussions about NATO allies putting 5% into meeting 5% standard for NATO support. They're doing things very, very differently, and they're doing things differently because President Trump has pressed the issue. And I believe that President Trump is best positioned to bring a lasting peace to Ukraine. We're going to have discussions about how we can continue to enable him with legislative action on sanctions in particular, which I'm interested in, but I think we also have to follow his lead.
Thank you all very much.
Are you planning to move these bills that you passed as a package?
That hasn't been determined yet.
Okay, thank you.